Rain hammered the city bus station in relentless sheets, turning puddles on the concrete floor into mirrors of gray clouds. The smell of wet asphalt and mildew hung heavy in the air, mixing with the faint scent of fried street food drifting from nearby vendors. Travelers hurried past, umbrellas bobbing like mushrooms in a storm, but one woman remained seated on a worn wooden bench, oblivious to the chaos around her. Her name was Maya, though no one here knew it. She had been homeless for months, drifting from shelter to shelter, bus station to bus station. Her thin coat did little to ward off the damp chill, and she clutched a tattered blanket around her shoulders. Her stomach growled faintly as she nibbled on a stale sandwich scavenged from a nearby cafe dumpster. Yet her mind was elsewhere, lost in thoughts she barely wanted to confront. Alone, always alone. A sudden, small voice cut through her reverie. "Excuse me, ma'am?" Maya's head snapped up. A group of 3 small children stood before her, soaked to the bone. Their clothes were muddied, their hair plastered to their foreheads, but their eyes were bright, sharp, and strangely unwavering. "A hello," Maya said cautiously. The smallest girl, clutching a soaked stuffed rabbit, took a hesitant step forward. You need a home," she said, her voice soft but certain, "and we need a mommy." Maya nearly choked on her sandwich. She blinked, certain she must be imagining it. "A what?" The children glanced at each other, as though silently confirming a plan only they knew. The tallest of the 3, a girl with an air of quiet confidence, stepped forward. "Yes," she said, "we don't have a mommy. But you look like someone who needs a home. Maybe we can help each other." Maya's heart thumped at her chest. She had lived so long without anyone, without family, without friends, that the very idea of children depending on her seemed absurd. Yet something in their innocent faces stirred a warmth she had thought long buried. "Where are your parents?" she asked softly, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. "They're not here," said a boy, his voice calm and steady. "But that's okay. We can be a family if you want." Maya's hands trembled as she brushed a strand of damp hair from her eyes. Memories rose unbidden. The nights she cried herself to sleep alone, the hollow ache of returning to an empty apartment that no longer existed, the relentless fear of being invisible. And here were 3 tiny humans, offering her something unimaginable: love, trust, and a family. You really want me to take care of you?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. "Yes," they said together, the sound almost musical. Lily, the boldest, tugged Maya's hand into hers. "We'll be good. We promise." Maya laughed, but it was a fragile, trembling sound, mingled with tears she could no longer suppress. "You don't even know me," she said. "I don't have a home myself." "Then we'll help you," Lucy said softly, pressing the soggy rabbit into Maya's hand. "We can be your family." For a long moment, the noise of the bus station faded. Maya felt the weight of loneliness lift slightly as she looked at them, 3 little hearts full of hope. She realized she had a choice: to remain alone, or to take a leap of faith into a life she had once thought impossible. "All right," she whispered finally, voice thick. Let's find somewhere dry, okay?" The children cheered quietly, their tiny hands clutching hers as they guided her toward a nearby shelter. Maya felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through her chest. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid. Not completely. As they walked through the wet streets, the rain no longer seemed so cold. The children chattered about trivial things: mud puddles, a stray dog, the bright colors of traffic lights. But Maya listened, laughing softly, letting herself be drawn into their small world. She noticed the way Lily held back Leo and Lucy, always looking out for them. She saw how Lucy hesitated before stepping into puddles, careful not to ruin her little rabbit, and how Leo tilted his head thoughtfully at every passerby, absorbing everything with quiet curiosity. Maya realized she was watching more than just children. She was witnessing resilience, courage, and hope distilled into 3 small bodies, all bound together by a love she didn't yet fully understand. And she knew with startling clarity that her own heart could grow to hold it. By the time they reached the shelter, Maya's coat was soaked through, her hair plastered to her face, and her shoes squelched with every step. But she didn't care. She had found something she hadn't known she was searching for, a reason to fight, a reason to care, a reason to hope. As she pushed open the shelter's door, the warmth hit her like a physical force. The scent of soup, clean blankets, and faint antiseptic was oddly comforting. The triplets tugged her toward the reception desk, chattering excitedly about the room with bunk beds they hoped to claim. Maya followed them, smiling through tears she hadn't realized were falling. Her life had been a series of empty streets and cold nights, but perhaps she thought, just perhaps, that was about to change. She glanced down at the three little faces looking up at her with unshakable faith. "You needed a home," she whispered, echoing the earlier words, "and we needed a mommy, and maybe, just maybe, we can all find it together." For the first time in years, Maya believed it. The shelter smelled of detergent and stale air, a sharp contrast to the wet, cold streets outside. Maya stepped through the doorway, the triplets' hands still tightly clutching hers. They looked around with wide, excited eyes, as if the simple act of being inside a warm building was a miracle. A kindly woman behind the reception desk greeted them with a cautious smile. "Hello, can I help you?" Maya swallowed nervously. "Yes, we need a place to stay just for the night." She hesitated, unsure what to say. "These three are with me." The woman raised an eyebrow. "With you? Are you their guardian?" Maya's throat tightened. She wasn't their guardian, not legally, and she hadn't planned for this. "Not yet, but The smallest triplet, Lucy, tugged at her coat. "Please," she said softly, "we don't want to be alone." The receptionist glanced at the three children, then back at Maya. There was a flicker of understanding in her eyes, a recognition of the desperation in their little faces. "All right," she said, "we have a room available for the night, but you'll need to register in the morning." Maya nodded, relief washing over her. "Thank you." The shelter room was small, but it was warm. 3 bunk beds lined one wall. A single window let in dim light from a street lamp outside, and a thin rug covered the cold linoleum floor. The triplets ran inside like children discovering a treasure, squealing as they picked beds, climbed the ladder, and flopped onto the mattresses with glee. Maya set her meager belongings on the floor and sank into a chair by the door. Watching them, she felt a pang she couldn't ignore. This was the first time she had allowed herself to care for anyone, let alone 3 little souls who depended entirely on her. "Are you hungry?" she asked, managing a small smile. The triplets nodded furiously. Lily jumped off the bed and grabbed Maya's hand. "Can we get something to eat?" "Please." Maya led them to the shelter's small dining area, where volunteers were passing out sandwiches and bowls of soup. The children's eyes lit up at the sight of the food. Lily tucked in immediately, slurping soup noisily, while Leo examined his sandwich with careful thought, and Lucy nibbled slowly, savoring each bite. Maya sat with them, her own sandwich barely touched. She watched them eat, noticing the way Lily's curls bounced as she talked, the way Leo's serious expression never wavered even when he smiled, and the way Lucy clutched a rabbit as if it were a lifeline. Each movement, each small gesture, made Maya's heart ache with a strange, new feeling, love. After the meal, they returned to the room. Maya tried to wash their hands and faces with the small basin and towel she found in the corner. The children squirmed and giggled, and for the first time in a long while, Maya laughed, not out of nervousness, but because of sheer joy. As they sat together on the beds, the conversation turned to small, ordinary things. "Do you like stories?" Maya asked. "Stories?" Lily exclaimed, bouncing on the bed. "Tell us one, about a mommy and her triplets." Maya hesitated. She wasn't sure she could make up something coherent on the spot. But as she looked at their eager faces, she felt a surge of determination. "All right. Once upon a time, there was a woman who wandered the streets, feeling alone, until one day, she found 3 little stars shining in the darkness. They were lost and needed her, and she needed them. The triplets leaned closer, eyes wide. Maya continued, weaving a story full of warmth, laughter, and little magical adventures, inserting moments of courage and friendship. As she spoke, she realized she was creating something she had never allowed herself to imagine before. Hope. When the story ended, Lily yawned and snuggled into the blanket. Leo's eyes were drooping, and Lucy hugged her rabbit tightly against her chest. Maya watched them settle down and felt an unfamiliar ache of longing. This was what it felt like to care deeply for someone. The night passed quietly, with the sound of distant conversations and the occasional cough echoing through the shelter. Maya lay awake on a cot across the room, listening to the soft breathing of the children. She thought of her own past, a childhood filled with absence, a series of choices that led her to the streets, and the years she had spent avoiding connections because they hurt too much. Yet now, here they were, three small beings trusting her entirely, and for the first time, she felt something stir inside her, courage. Maybe she could protect them. Maybe she could finally be part of family, even if it was the most unlikely family in the world. Morning arrived with the muffled sounds of rain tapping against the window. The children were awake, brushing their teeth at the tiny sink and giggling at how squeaky their toothbrushes sounded. Maya, still groggy, watched them with a mixture of awe and love. A knock at the door announced the arrival of the shelter coordinator. "Good morning," the woman said kindly. "Time to register. I see you have the triplets with you." Maya's heart tightened. She knew this would be a test. The system would want proof she could care for them. But she straightened her shoulders and smiled down at Lily, Leo, and Lucy. "Yes," she said firmly. "They're with me, and we'll do whatever it takes." The children looked at her with wide, trusting eyes. In that moment, Maya felt a bond she had never known before. They were not just children she had found. They were her family. As they left the room and walked toward the coordinator's office, Maya held their hands tightly, feeling the warmth of small, determined fingers intertwined with her own. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope, a future where they could be together, a future where she had purpose, love, and a home to call their own. And though the road ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear. This was the beginning of something extraordinary. Maya wasn't alone anymore. She had them, and they had her. For the first time in years, Maya believed that family wasn't just a dream. It was possible. The morning sun peeked through a break in the clouds, casting a muted glow on the wet streets of the city. Maya stepped out of the shelter with the triplets in tow, their small hands clutching hers tightly. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp pavement and early traffic. For a moment, she felt hope, bright, fragile, but real. They had managed a night indoors, a warm meal, and the comfort of blankets. But now, reality waited outside. Shelters couldn't last forever, and the city didn't pause for the homeless. Maya's stomach tightened as she scanned the streets, thinking about food, safety, and what little money she had left. "Where are we going today, Mommy?" Lily asked, bouncing slightly on her feet. "We'll see," Maya said, smiling despite the knot of worry in her chest. "First, we need to find something to eat and maybe some clean clothes." The triplets nodded solemnly. Their excitement was tempered by an understanding beyond their years, a resilience born from their own hardships. Their first stop was a small corner bakery. Maya's hope dimmed as she peeked through the window at freshly baked pastries. She could feel the temptation, the warmth of the oven, the sweetness calling to her, but her pockets were empty. She sighed, and just as she was about to turn away, Lily tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, maybe they have leftovers?" Lily suggested, her eyes shining. Maya shook her head gently. "We can ask nicely. That's all we can do." Taking a deep breath, she approached the counter. "Excuse me," she began, her voice tentative. "Do you have any leftover bread or pastries? We don't have money, but we'd be so grateful." The baker, a kind-faced man with flour-dusted hands, studied her and the children. His gaze softened. "I have a few loaves I was going to toss out," he said. "Take them. Make sure the kids eat well." Relief and gratitude flooded Maya's chest. She thanked him profusely as the triplets' faces lit up with smiles. Lily immediately hugged her leg, whispering, "See, Mommy? The world isn't all bad." With bread and pastries in hand, they moved on to the next challenge: clean clothes. Maya's eyes scanned a nearby thrift store, and she pushed open the door, the bell jingling overhead. The warmth inside was a welcome comfort, but the shelves of neatly folded clothes and racks of shoes reminded her of just how little she had. Maya handed the children some coins she had managed to save and let them pick a few small items each. Lily chose a bright yellow dress. Leo selected a sturdy pair of overalls, and Lucy carefully held a soft cardigan she insisted would keep her rabbit warm. "Thank you, Mommy," Lucy whispered, pressing the cardigan to her chest. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. She had never imagined feeling needed in such a tangible way. These children depended on her for everything, yet they gave her a purpose she hadn't known she craved. By midday, they wandered into a small park. The triplets played cautiously in the puddles and mud, their laughter ringing like tiny bells. Maya watched, both charmed and anxious. The world was beautiful but dangerous, and she felt a protective instinct stronger than anything she had known before. "Mommy," Leo called, "look, I made a mud castle." Lily and Lucy joined him, and Maya smiled despite her nerves. She knelt down beside them, helping to shape the towers and moats. For a moment, it felt like a normal day: sunshine, play, and laughter, something Maya had almost forgotten existed. But normal was fragile. As they packed up to leave, Maya's stomach twisted with anxiety. She needed a job, a place to stay, a way to make this arrangement sustainable. But the city was harsh, and she had no address, no ID, and barely enough energy to face another rejection. "Maybe we can find work today," she said, more to herself than the children. Anything. They walked toward a nearby street lined with small businesses, Maya scanning help-wanted signs. The triplets followed, hands in hers, their chatter lightening the weight in her chest. Yet each closed door and skeptical gaze reminded her how difficult life outside the shelter could be. An opportunity finally appeared at a small daycare. A sign read, "Part-time caregiver needed. Experience preferred." Maya hesitated. She had experience, but no proof, no references, nothing official. Still, she stepped inside, holding the triplets close. The daycare manager, a warm but professional woman, eyed her with cautious interest. "Do you have experience with children?" she asked. Maya nodded. "Yes, I've cared for children before. I'm responsible, and I promise I would do my best." The manager frowned. "Do you have references or documentation?" Maya shook her head, feeling a familiar pang of shame. "No, but I can provide everything else you need. Please, I just want to help." The manager's eyes softened, though doubt lingered. "I can give you a trial shift," she said cautiously. "No guarantees, but we'll see." Relief flooded Maya's chest. "Thank you," she whispered. Outside, the triplets danced around her, their joy infectious. "See, Mommy," Lily said, "good things happen when you try." As they walked home, back to the shelter, the rain returned, gentle and rhythmic this time. Maya held their hands tightly, her mind buzzing with a mix of hope and fear. She was stepping into the unknown, but for the first time, she wasn't alone. That night, as they sat together in the small shelter room, Maya reflected on the day. They had bread, clean clothes, and even a potential job opportunity. But tomorrow would bring more challenges, proving herself, navigating bureaucracy, and protecting the triplets from a world that often didn't care for children or for women like her. Still, she allowed herself a small smile. She had them, and they had her. That was enough for now. She tucked the triplets into bed, reading them a short story before sleep claimed them. Lily rested her head against Maya's shoulder. Leo held her hand tightly, and Lucy pressed her rabbit to her cheek. Maya kissed each of them gently. "Tomorrow, we keep going. We'll find our way together." And as she sat back, watching them drift into peaceful slumber, she whispered to herself, "No matter what, I'll protect them. I'll give them a home, even if I have none myself." For the first time, the outside world didn't seem so cruel. With the triplets by her side, Maya felt a spark of something she had almost forgotten: determination, hope, family. The trials had only just begun, but she was ready to face them. The morning sun was bright but uncomfortably glaring as Maya stepped out of the shelter with the triplets. Today felt heavier, filled with a tension she hadn't felt before. Her small family, her responsibility, was about to face a new kind of challenge, one that no amount of love or determination could entirely prepare her for: the system. A knock at the door of the shelter drew her attention. The shelter coordinator, a kind but firm woman named Ms. Harper, was there with two formally dressed individuals. Social workers, Maya realized instantly. "Maya, may we talk to you for a moment?" Ms. Harper asked gently, glancing down at the children who clung to her legs. Maya's heart sank. She straightened her shoulders, masking the flutter of anxiety. "Of course," she said, keeping her voice steady. The social workers introduced themselves: Mr. Thompson and Ms. Rivera, clipboard in hand, eyes sharp but not unkind. They explained the situation matter-of-factly. "We understand your circumstances, Maya," Mr. Thompson said, "and we appreciate that you've been caring for the children. But we have legal obligations. The triplets' well-being is our top priority. We need to ensure they are safe and that you can provide a stable environment." Maya swallowed, feeling the familiar ache of judgment press down on her chest. I've been doing my best. They have food, clothing, and a roof tonight." Ms. Rivera's gaze softened slightly, but her tone remained firm. "That's commendable, but temporary shelter isn't enough. You'll need to provide documentation, identification, proof of income, a stable residence. Without these, we cannot legally allow you to keep them." The triplets huddled closer to Maya. Lily's small hand gripped hers tightly. "Mommy, we don't want to go," she whispered. Maya knelt down, holding all three hands. "I know," she said softly. "I don't want to go either. But we have to prove we can stay together. I promise we'll figure this out." The social workers nodded. "We're here to help guide you through this process, Maya. But it will be difficult. You must understand that the system has rules for a reason." Maya's stomach twisted. She had faced judgment her entire life. Job rejections, cold shoulders, abandoned opportunities. But this felt different. This was personal. These children depended on her, and she had no safety net. Over the next few days, Maya confronted every barrier she could imagine. The first challenge was identification. Her ID had been lost years ago during a move from one shelter to another. Replacing it required forms, proof of address, and fees she did not have. At the social services office, she pleaded her case. "I can provide anything else you need," she said, clutching the triplets' small hands. "I can give references from the shelter staff, from employers, from anyone who can show I can care for them." The clerk shook her head. "Without proper identification, there's little we can do immediately. You'll need to start the replacement process and come back." Maya felt the weight of despair pressing down. She glanced at the triplets, whose eyes were wide with worry. "We'll get through this," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "I promise." The next challenge was employment. Maya had been offered the trial position at the daycare, but they required official documents. Without her ID, the job was on hold. She began canvassing local businesses, hoping someone might hire her with a temporary reference. But doors closed, skeptical eyes followed her down streets, and whispers of homeless and no experience followed her like shadows. Through it all, the triplets remained her anchor. Lily offered encouragement, Leo analyzed solutions like a tiny strategist, and Lucy's quiet optimism reminded Maya why she had to keep going. One evening, after a long day of running from office to office, Maya collapsed on her cot in the shelter. The children crawled into her lap, exhausted and muddy, their small bodies warm against hers. "I don't know if we can do this," she admitted, voice breaking. "I don't have the proof, the money, or maybe the strength." Lily hugged her tightly. "Mommy, you already have the most important thing. You love us. That's all we need." Leo nodded solemnly. "We'll figure out the rest together." Lucy pressed her damp cheek against Maya's shoulder, whispering, "We believe in you." For the first time in days, Maya allowed herself to breathe. She realized that love could be a form of strength, stronger than any documentation, stronger than any rule. But love alone wouldn't satisfy the law. She had to fight. The next morning, she returned to the social workers with a plan. She had contacted her old employer, a kindly woman who had agreed to provide a reference. She had found a small room for rent, though modest and temporary. She had started the ID replacement process, even if it would take weeks. She laid it all out, her hands shaking but her voice steady. Mr. Thompson and Ms. Rivera listened carefully, their expressions unreadable. After a long pause, Ms. Rivera spoke. "Maya, this is promising, but it is not enough yet. We need to see consistency. You must prove you can provide for them for at least a month before we can consider full custody. During this time, we will monitor your progress." Maya nodded, determination igniting within her. "I understand. I'll do whatever it takes. I won't let them down." The social workers left, and Maya turned to the triplets, who were watching her with hope and trust. "We have work to do," she said firmly. "We're going to show everyone that we belong together." Over the next weeks, Maya's days were a whirlwind. She balanced odd jobs, trips to the social services office, daycare shifts, and the constant care of 3 energetic children. Each night, she read them stories, helped with homework, and tucked them in with kisses and gentle whispers of encouragement. And each night, she marveled at the bond forming between them, a bond that no paperwork, no rule, no bureaucratic hurdle could sever. One evening, exhausted and soaked from the rain, Maya watched the triplets play quietly on the shelter floor. They laughed at a shared joke, their small voices echoing in the tiny room. Maya's heart swelled. She realized then that no matter the challenges ahead, no matter the tests of law or society, they were a family already. "Yes," she whispered, brushing a damp curl from Lily's forehead. "We'll get through this, together." And though the future was uncertain, for the first time, Maya felt a fierce, unshakable hope. They were not alone. They had each other, and that was everything. The city was quiet in the early morning, the sun just beginning to stretch across the skyline. Maya sat on the edge of her cot, the triplets still asleep, their small bodies tangled in blankets. The warmth of the room was a welcome contrast to the chill outside, but her mind was far from peaceful. She thought about how far they had come in just a few weeks, the bakery bread, the thrift store clothes, the small victories at the daycare. Yet beneath the surface of this fragile happiness lay a lifetime of pain she had never fully faced. Maya's thoughts drifted back to her childhood. She had grown up in a small apartment, the kind of place where love was spoken in whispers, if at all. Her parents were absent more often than they were present, and when they were home, arguments filled the space between them. She remembered nights spent curled under a threadbare blanket, clutching a worn-out stuffed bear, hoping someone would notice her. But no one did. Her memories were sharp, piercing her like shards of glass. The loneliness, the sense of invisibility, the fear that she was somehow unworthy of love, all of it had followed her into adulthood. She had built walls around her heart, convincing herself that she didn't need anyone, that dependence was weakness. And yet, here they were, 3 small souls who had chosen her, who had placed their trust in someone who barely trusted herself. Maya closed her eyes and let herself remember another set of memories, one that wasn't hers. The triplets' journey before she met them. She recalled hearing bits and pieces from the shelter staff. A tragic accident, parents unable to care for them, a life uprooted in a moment. She hadn't wanted to pry, but her heart ached for what they had lost. She pictured them huddled together on rainy streets, searching for warmth, for someone to love them. And now, they had found her. Somehow, they had given her a chance she had long abandoned. The chance to be someone's anchor, someone's home. Maya exhaled slowly. She realized that the pain she carried didn't have to define her anymore. She could break the cycle, not just for herself, but for these children who looked at her as their everything. Determined to face her own scars, Maya sought help. She began attending a small support group at the shelter, a safe space where women share their struggles and victories. At first, She was hesitant, reluctant to expose the rawness of her past to strangers. But each story she heard, each shared tear and laugh, chipped away at the wall she had built around herself. One evening, sitting in a circle of women she barely knew but already trusted, Maya spoke. I lost myself a long time ago, she admitted, her voice trembling. I've been alone for years. And now, these children, they depend on me. I'm scared I'll fail them, but I can't let them down. The women nodded, some reaching out to touch her hand. You're already doing your best, one said softly. And that's enough to start. Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she had almost forgotten. Hope. Back in the shelter room, the triplets noticed her quiet reflection. Lily crawled onto her lap, wrapping her small arms around Maya's neck. Mommy, are you okay? Maya smiled, brushing a damp curl from Lily's forehead. Yes, sweetheart. I'm okay. I'm just thinking. Leo leaned against her shoulder. You're strong, Mommy. You've already saved us. Lucy clutched her rabbit and whispered, We love you, Mommy. Maya's eyes filled with tears, but these were tears of healing, not sorrow. She realized that her past pain, though it had shaped her, did not have to control her future. With the triplets by her side, she could learn to trust, to love, and to be loved in return. Over the next few days, Maya began incorporating small routines that helped her and the triplets heal together. Mornings were filled with laughter as they prepared simple breakfasts, played games that required teamwork, and shared stories about their dreams. Afternoons were dedicated to walks in the park or visits to the library, where the children eagerly devoured books about faraway lands and brave heroes. One afternoon, as they sat beneath a sprawling oak tree, Maya told the triplets about her childhood, not the sorrowful parts in painful detail, but the lessons she had learned. Even when life seems unfair, she said, you can still choose kindness. You can still choose hope. And you can choose family, even if it's not the one you were born into. The triplets listened intently, their hands intertwined in hers. Lily nodded, Leo's eyes sparkled with understanding, and Lucy's soft smile radiated trust. In that moment, Maya felt a sense of completeness she had never known. She was not just a protector or a caregiver. She was a mother in the truest sense of the word. Healing, she realized, wasn't a single act. It was a series of small choices, choosing to stay when it was hard, choosing to love when it was risky, choosing to hope when it was easier to despair. And each day, with the triplets beside her, Maya made that choice over and over again. By the end of the week, a sense of rhythm and stability began to settle into their lives. Maya had started a part-time schedule at the daycare, balancing her work with the children's routines. The triplets thrived under her care, learning to trust adults again, to find joy in small victories, and to feel safe in a world that had often been harsh. One quiet evening, as the rain pattered softly against the shelter windows, Maya tucked the triplets into bed. She lingered by their side, brushing hair from their foreheads, whispering words of encouragement and love. You are brave, she said. You are loved. And together, we can face anything. Lily yawned, snuggling under her blanket. We believe you, Mommy. Leo murmured sleepily. We're safe with you. Lucy whispered, Forever, Mommy. Maya's heart swelled. In that moment, she understood something profound. The past could hurt, but it could also teach. And the future, though uncertain, held promise. With the triplets, she was no longer just surviving. She was living, healing, and building a family. As she turned off the light and watched them drift into peaceful sleep, Maya allowed herself to feel a sense of quiet triumph. They had endured loss, fear, and uncertainty, but together, they were stronger. She had survived her past, and now she could embrace her future. And for the first time in her life, she felt whole. The sunlight streamed through the shelter windows, falling in warm stripes across the worn floor. Maya sat at the small table with the triplets, sipping lukewarm tea while watching them pack a few books and toys into their little backpacks. Life had begun to settle into a fragile rhythm. The small routines she had established in the past weeks, breakfast together, library visits, and short walks in the park were slowly becoming habits. Yet the weight of the outside world pressed on her shoulders. She needed a home, she needed stability, and she needed to prove that she could care for the triplets long term. Today brought the first small victory, a phone call from the daycare. Maya, the manager's voice said warmly, "We reviewed your trial shifts. You've done an excellent job. We'd like to offer you a permanent part-time position." Maya's heart leaped. "Thank you. I won't let you down." "You already haven't," the manager replied. "Keep up the good work." Hanging up, Maya felt a surge of hope. A steady income, however modest, meant they could begin saving towards something permanent. She glanced at the triplets, who were busy organizing their little items. "Guess what?" she said, smiling. "We have a real job now. Real money. Real progress." Lily bounced on the spot. "Does that mean we can get ice cream later?" "Maybe." Maya laughed, ruffling her curls. "If we save some, we can have a treat." Yet small victories were always accompanied by setbacks. The first challenge came in the form of their living situation. The shelter had a strict policy. Families could stay temporarily, but long-term occupancy required proof of income and references, both of which Maya had only begun to establish. She visited a small apartment complex that advertised affordable rooms. The space was tiny, one bedroom, a modest kitchenette, and a bathroom barely larger than the triplets' beds combined. But it had warmth, running water, and a roof over their heads, luxuries they had not known for months. The landlord frowned at her request. "I'll rent it to you, but only if you can show proof of employment and a steady schedule," he said. Maya bit her lip but nodded. "I can do that. I start at the daycare tomorrow, and I can show pay stubs." The landlord hesitated, then handed her the lease. "Make sure everything is in order. I don't want issues." Maya signed quickly, relief washing over her. The triplets squealed with excitement. Lily immediately began rearranging imaginary furniture. Leo carefully examined the small closets, and Lucy hugged her stuffed rabbit tightly, whispering, "We have a home now, Mommy." For a few days, life seemed manageable. Maya balanced her daycare shifts with trips to the social services office and the daily care of the triplets. She cooked simple meals for them, helped with reading and small assignments, and tucked them in at night with stories of bravery and hope. But the setbacks came too, subtle but persistent. One afternoon, as Maya returned from work, she found the triplets drenched from a sudden downpour, having wandered outside without coats while chasing a stray dog. Lily's dress was torn, Leo's shoes muddy, and Lucy's rabbit had a soaked ear. Maya's heart pounded. "Why didn't you ask me before going outside?" she scolded gently, trying to keep her voice calm. We didn't think," Lily admitted, her face downcast. Maya knelt and took each of their hands. "I know it was an accident, but we have to be careful. The world can be harsh, and I can't protect you if you're in danger." The children nodded, chastened but still full of trust. Maya helped them dry off, patched the small tear in Lily's dress, and tucked them into bed early that evening. Another setback was financial. Despite her new job, daycare hours were limited and expenses piled up: transportation, food, shelter fees, and the occasional school supply for the triplets. Maya often lay awake at night, tallying numbers in her head, wondering if she was doing enough. Yet even in these struggles, there were small victories. One morning, she found an unexpected gift from the bakery, a bag of leftover pastries for the week, a simple act of kindness that reminded her she wasn't entirely alone. A neighbor at the shelter offered hand-me-down clothes for the triplets, brightening their moods and lightening her burden. Maya also found support among other parents and caregivers at the daycare. A woman named Claire, noticing Maya's dedication, offered tips on budgeting and managing time, and even volunteered to babysit occasionally to give Maya some respite. "These little things add up," Claire said one afternoon as they sipped coffee in the staff room. "Don't underestimate how far you've come." Maya smiled, feeling a glimmer of pride. She realized that stability wasn't achieved all at once. It was built through small, consistent efforts, through persistence and patience. One evening, as they sat together in their modest apartment, Maya looked at the triplets sprawled on the floor, playing a simple board game. Lily giggled at Leo's dramatic moves, while Lucy cheered quietly when her pieces advanced. Maya felt a surge of warmth. They were happy, even in their tiny space. They had a roof, food, and each other, and she had begun to believe that this was enough to start rebuilding their lives. She held them close, brushing strands of hair from their faces. "We've had a lot of hard days," she said softly, "but we've also had victories. Big ones, small ones, every step forward counts." Lily looked up at her, eyes bright. "Like today?" "Yes," Maya said, smiling. "Today, tomorrow, every day we try is a victory." Leo leaned against her shoulder. "I like our small victories." Lucy whispered, "Me too. They make us strong." Maya kissed their foreheads. "Exactly. We're strong because we face the challenges together." As the night drew on, she tucked the triplets into their little beds, her heart full but heavy with responsibility. She knew setbacks were inevitable. Financial struggles, social services scrutiny, and the demands of their new life. But she also knew that their bond, their love, and their determination could carry them through. For the first time, Maya felt a quiet confidence. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was building something, a life, a home, and a family. And though the road ahead was uncertain, she believed they could navigate it together. The small victories, she realized, were more powerful than any obstacle. And with each one, they moved closer to the future they all deserved. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and distant smoke from nearby chimneys. Maya stood in the small kitchen of their modest apartment, stirring oatmeal for the triplets while listening to the soft hum of traffic outside. Life had settled into a fragile rhythm. School, work, and small moments of joy. But beneath the surface, an unseen tension lingered. That tension erupted without warning that afternoon. A knock at the door startled Maya. When she opened it, she found Mr. Thompson and Ms. Rivera, the social workers, standing with serious expressions. "Maya, we need to speak with you," Ms. Rivera said gently but firmly. Maya's stomach sank. She had hoped this day would not come so soon. "Of course," she replied, keeping her voice steady. She glanced at the triplets, who had been quietly playing with their building blocks on the floor. "Stay here," she whispered to them, her hand resting on Lily's shoulder. In the hallway, the social workers explained the situation. "We've reviewed your progress," Mr. Thompson began, "and while we commend your dedication, concerns have arisen regarding long-term stability and safety. There have been reports of inconsistencies in your housing documentation and financial records." Maya's heart pounded. "Inconsistencies? Everything I've provided is accurate. I've followed every step you asked for." Ms. Rivera sighed. "We understand that, Maya. But as social workers, we are bound by regulations. Until we can verify everything fully, the triplets cannot remain in unsupervised care. We may need to place them temporarily in foster care for their safety." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. "No, you can't. They're my family. They can't be taken away." The triplets appeared at the doorway, sensing the tension. Lily clutched Maya's hand. "Mommy, what's happening?" Maya knelt to their level, swallowing the lump in her throat. "They're worried about making sure you're safe. But we're going to fight this, okay? Together." Leo's eyes filled with tears. "We don't want to leave you." Lucy hugged her rabbit tightly. "We'll be brave, Mommy. You taught us that." Maya hugged them all, her own tears falling freely. "I promise I won't let anything separate us." Over the next few days, Maya faced the most challenging task of her life. She compiled every piece of documentation she could find. Pay stubs from the daycare, letters from neighbors and colleagues, receipts, and even personal references from the shelter staff. She met with lawyers recommended by the shelter, who guided her on the legal process and helped her prepare for hearings. Each step was exhausting. She balanced daycare shifts, caring for the triplets, and preparing for legal scrutiny. There were nights she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining the children being taken from her. The fear was unbearable, but it also fueled her determination. The day of the hearing arrived. The small courtroom was stark, with high ceilings and rows of benches. Maya sat with the triplets on her lap, holding their hands tightly. Their eyes, wide with uncertainty, mirrored her own emotions: fear, hope, and unwavering love. Mr. Thompson and Ms. Rivera presented their case, expressing concerns about Maya's ability to provide long-term stability. But when it was Maya's turn, she stood, her voice strong despite the tremor in her chest. "I know my situation isn't perfect," she began, "but I have never stopped working to provide for these children. I have a steady job, a home, and a network of support. Most importantly, I love them. They trust me, and they're my family. I will do whatever it takes to keep them safe and happy. Please, don't separate us." She handed the judge the carefully organized documents: references, receipts, work schedules, and letters of support. The judge reviewed them quietly, glancing up at Maya and the children. The room was silent for what felt like an eternity. Maya's heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears. She glanced at the triplets, who squeezed her hands tightly. She drew a deep breath, steadying herself. Finally, the judge spoke. "Maya, your dedication is evident. While there were concerns regarding documentation and resources, your consistent efforts and the support network you have established demonstrate a genuine commitment to these children. Therefore, we will grant temporary guardianship, contingent on continued monitoring and progress reports. The children will remain in your care." Relief crashed over Maya in waves. Tears streamed down her face as she hugged the triplets tightly. Lily giggled through her own tears. "We won't leave you, Mommy," Leo whispered. "We knew you could do it." Lucy clutched her rabbit and pressed it to Maya's cheek. "Forever, Mommy." Outside the courtroom, the air felt lighter, almost magical. The city noises were still there, but for Maya, they were drowned out by the sound of her children's laughter and the steady beat of her own heart. They had faced the ultimate test and survived together. That evening, back in their modest apartment, Maya prepared a small celebratory dinner. The triplets helped set the table, their smiles radiant. They talked about school, friends, and small victories, as if the day's trial had never happened. Maya watched them, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. They had come to her at the bus station weeks ago, lost and vulnerable. Now, they were her family, and she was theirs legally, emotionally, and irrevocably. She realized that the ultimate test was never just about the legal system or paperwork. It was about love, perseverance, and the courage to fight for those who depend on you. And she had proven, to herself and to the world, that nothing could break the bond they shared. As she tucked the triplets in a bed that night, she whispered, "We did it. Together, nothing can separate us." Lily yawned, her eyes shining. "We're strong because of you, Mommy." Leo murmured, "We always believed in you." Lucy whispered sleepily, "Forever, Mommy." Maya kissed each of their foreheads, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. The trials were not over. Life would always bring challenges, but she knew one truth: their love, resilience, and trust were unbreakable. For the first time, Maya truly understood what it meant to be a mother, to fight, to protect, and to never give up, no matter the obstacles. And as the children slept peacefully, she allowed herself to rest too, knowing that together they could face anything. The sun rose over the city in soft, golden hues, casting warm light across the streets. Maya stepped out of their modest apartment with the triplets in tow, their small hands clutching hers tightly. Today felt different, lighter, brighter, and filled with a sense of promise that had been absent for so long. It had been weeks since the court ruling, weeks of careful planning, work, and small victories. Maya had secured a steady schedule at the daycare, completed all the documentation required by social services, and managed to save a little toward a permanent home. For the first time, it felt possible, a life where they could truly belong together. The triplets chattered excitedly as they walked to the bus stop, their energy infectious. Lily hummed a tune she had made up, Leo pointed out every leaf changing color on the trees, and Lucy clutched a rabbit, whispering stories about its imaginary adventures. Maya smiled, her heart full. Arriving at the bus stop, they waited in comfortable silence, watching the city wake. Maya reflected on their journey, from the rainy bus station where she had first met the children, to the shelter nights, the trials with social workers, and the ultimate court hearing that had threatened to separate them. Each step had been challenging, yet each had strengthened the bond they shared. When the bus arrived, they climbed aboard, settling into a window seat together. Maya watched the city pass by, the bustling streets, the crowded markets, the familiar faces of neighbors and friends, and she felt a sense of belonging she had never known. She was part of this city, part of family, and for the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future that was bright and full of hope. Later that day, they arrived at their new home, a small but cozy apartment with 2 bedrooms, a living area filled with sunlight, and a tiny balcony overlooking the street. It wasn't grand, but it was theirs. Maya watched the triplets run through the rooms, their laughter echoing off the walls. Lily immediately began arranging her dollhouse by the window. Leo inspected the cupboards and closets with careful precision, and Lucy set up a small corner for her rabbit, placing a tiny blanket over it with loving care. "This is our home now," Maya said softly, tears pricking at her eyes. "We belong here. We belong together." Lily ran to hug her. "It's perfect, Mommy." Leo nodded, a small smile on his face. "We'll take good care of it." Lucy whispered, "Forever, Mommy." Maya laughed through tears, holding them close. She felt a sense of peace she had never thought possible. The chaos, uncertainty, and fear of the past weeks had transformed into a life filled with warmth, stability, and love. Over the next few days, Maya settled into her routine. Mornings were filled with preparing breakfast together, walking to the bus stop, and enjoying small conversations along the way. Afternoons included work at the daycare, where Maya's dedication and love for children were recognized and appreciated by both colleagues and parents. Evenings were for reading, play, and quiet reflection with the triplets, reinforcing the bond that had carried them through their darkest times. One evening, as the golden sun dipped below the skyline, Maya sat on the small balcony with a cup of tea. The triplets were inside, drawing pictures and planning imaginative adventures. She reflected on their journey, how much they had endured, and how far they had come. The city lights twinkled like stars, and for the first time, she felt the weight of the past lift, replaced with a sense of hope and purpose. Maya knew challenges would continue: bills, school, work, and the small uncertainties of life. But she also knew they were ready. Together, they had faced storms, both literal and metaphorical. Together, they had laughed, cried, and persevered. And together, they had become a family. That night, as she tucked the triplets into bed, Maya lingered for a moment, brushing curls from their foreheads. "We've been through so much," she whispered. "And yet here we are. We've built something beautiful, a family that will never be broken." Lily yawned, snuggling under her blanket. "We love you, Mommy." Leo whispered sleepily, "You're the best mommy in the world." Lucy clutched her rabbit and said softly, "We're happy, Mommy. Really happy." Maya kissed each of them gently, a profound sense of gratitude filling her chest. She realized that family wasn't defined by perfection, wealth, or circumstance. It was defined by love, trust, and the willingness to fight for each other. As she turned off the lights and watched them drift into peaceful slumber, Maya allowed herself to dream, not of escaping the hardships of the past, but of embracing the life they had built together. A life filled with laughter, warmth, and hope. A life where they could grow, explore, and love without fear. The next morning, they began a new routine in their new home. They arranged furniture, planted small flowers on the balcony, and even baked simple treats together. Each small task reinforced the sense of belonging and pride that Maya had fought so hard to achieve. When the triplets went to bed that night, exhausted but happy, Maya sat quietly in the living room, reflecting on the journey. She thought about the rainy bus station, the nights in the shelter, the trials with social workers, and the countless small victories along the way. Every obstacle had led them to this moment, a safe, loving home where they truly belonged. Maya realized that their story was not just about survival. It was about transformation, resilience, and the power of love. They had faced despair and uncertainty, yet they had emerged stronger, united, and ready to embrace the future together. As the city slept outside, Maya whispered softly to herself, "This is only the beginning. Our life, our love, and our family will continue to grow. And no matter what comes, we will face it together." The triplets stirred slightly in their sleep, and Maya smiled, knowing that the bond they shared was unbreakable. Their journey had been long and difficult, but had led them to a place of hope, security, and unwavering love. And in that moment, Maya understood something profound. Family isn't just about who you are born to. It's about who you choose to love, protect, and stand by, no matter the obstacles. Their new beginning was not just a home. It was a life filled with promise, laughter, and a certainty that they were, at last, truly together. And together, they were unstoppable,